Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It is National Zipper Day. Tony, how are you celebrating?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. By giving my fly the day off, by letting things breathe.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ignore what's going on below that table. I don't think I need to know that all the way out here.
Well, why'd you ask me? You asked me about National Zipper Day.
Going to break open a bottle of champagne. You know, something conventional celebration, Holmes.
What I have done is tremendously conventional. It goes back to the 3rd century when nobody wore any clothing. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Thunder connect with Billy Donovan. The Browns reportedly eye Marcus Mariota. And the Orioles host a game without fans. But we begin today with the San Antonio Spurs prevailing last night in Los Angeles over the Clippers to take a 3-2 lead in their series. The game was distinguished by a great block late by Tim Duncan on Blake Griffin, by the obvious and valid interference call on DeAndre Jordan on a basket that would have given the Clippers the lead with 4 seconds to go, and by Doc Rivers railing against the referees. Wilbon, where does this loss put the Clippers?
Tony, puts them about 48 minutes from vacation. And this is too bad because this is the best series of the first round by far. These are two teams that should be playing at least one more round, maybe more than that. This is it's an A-plus game last night. You outlined the absolute highlights, and I would go straight to the goaltending call. It was goaltending. There's no question about it. It's goaltending.
Right.
And, Tony, it reminds me of those New York Knicks teams, and Doc Rivers was on some of them as a player in the late 80s and throughout the 90s that just could not beat Michael Jordan and the Bulls. So these are two great teams. It's just that the Spurs are better. They're a little deeper. They have greater poise and calm down the stretch. They're a championship team. They've been through it. They're just better than the Clippers, Tone. The Clippers played great last night. The Spurs are better.
So are you saying that you believe now the San Antonio Spurs will win this series?
Tony, I told you I was rooting for 7. I'm still rooting for 7. But I find it hard to think that somebody's going to go in there and beat them in Game 6 when the Spurs know what's at stake.
I think the opposite. It's not that I don't think San Antonio is going to win, but I don't think the Clippers are in as much trouble as you are. And what I would point to is that the last time they were in San Antonio for Game 4, they won that game.
They did.
Now, so they can win again. San Antonio has already won 2 out of 3 in L.A. It's hard for me to imagine, Mike, that they're going to win 3 out of 4 in L.A. So I don't think the Clippers are in terrible shape. In terms of the goaltending call, and we talked about this before the show, the international rule allows you to get up there once the ball hits the rim.
Knock that in or out.
Maybe it's time, the way the NBA plays, maybe it's time to allow something like that. Because look, it's a dumb play by DeAndre Jordan. I understand that. But perhaps perhaps it's time to go on that rule.
Well, Tone, there's been some consideration. There's some consideration. Let me just say this, though, in terms of the number of games. Look, as you know, the Clippers have had 2 games right there that they've really won.
Right.
That means that to win this series, the Clippers would have to outplay, essentially beat the Spurs 6 times in 7 games. The 4 you have to win, and the 2 the Clippers have quote-unquote blown. I hate to say blown because the Spurs are so good. It's just
well, maybe if they didn't whine that much. They seem to be more
whining has nothing to do.
They seem to be more affected by what happens than the Spurs, who can lean on a championship pedigree.
Right. Well, Tony, I said less poise. But the whining about the goaltending call, didn't affect anything. It didn't distract the Clippers because there's 4 seconds left in the game, and the game's over at that point. But what a game. What a game to watch in person. No such melodrama in Houston last night. The Rockets rather comfortably beat Dallas in Game 5. And while we have time later on to get to the Rockets taking on the Spurs or Clippers in the next round, today's conversation will focus on Dallas, which has a bunch of distinguished old warriors, a hole at point guard apparently, middle-of-the-pack status, and a lot of uncertainty. So where exactly does this leave the Dallas Mavericks?
Where does it leave the Mavericks?
Yeah.
By the side of the road. It's over for the Mavericks. Their best player, Hall of Fame player, great player, Dirk Nowitzki. He's going to be 37 in June, all right? Their best defensive player, Tyson Chandler, he's 32 years old at the moment. Their second best player, Monte Ellis, he jacks it up from anywhere he wants. He's really not a very good team player. And they went for Rajon Rondo. And not only was he a bust, Mike, he antagonized his teammates to such a degree that there is a report that he has been voted out of a playoff share.
Isn't that amazing?
So,
you ever heard of that?
No.
A guy who actually played in the playoffs being told, no soup for you.
So at the moment, what it seems to me is that their run's over. Their run is over.
Yeah, Tony, I agree with you. I think they have to start over. And, look, they got a championship out of it, and they were hanging around it. They were in contention several times, and you do what you can. You mentioned the ages of those guys. And Tyson Chandler came in the league at like 18 years old, so being 32 is older. It's like 14 seasons. And Dirk, these are terrific players, whether full stars, marquee stars like Dirk, or big-time role players who are bigger, outsized roles like Tyson Chandler. And Tony, you have to get a great player in his prime. You have to have one to contend, particularly in the Western Conference as we see it now.
There's one
Golden State and Houston with Harden and teams like that.
Here's what they have going for them, and it is Mark Cuban. As we see in Shark Tank, Mark Cuban is willing to take a chance. If LaMarcus Aldridge, who is from Dallas, if he's a free agent,
and it's already out
there. Cuban will be in play for that. He'll be in play for Kevin Love. But Mark Cuban will not hide his life under a bushel basket. He will be out there trying to get a team together. But at the moment, Cinco, right?
Tony, with free agents and the television money, the boom that's coming, you're right. You can go out and get those guys, but you have to have one.
That's right.
You can't approach it. You have to have at least one.
According to various reports, the Oklahoma City Thunder and Billy Donovan have begun talking about the vacant coaching job on Oklahoma City. ESPN says Donovan is leaning toward taking the job. Yahoo says Oklahoma City general manager Sam Presti has not conferred with either Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook or their agents about hiring Donovan. Wilbon, who would be taking the bigger risk here, Donovan or the Thunder?
Well, there's no real risk to Donovan, Tony. We've seen so many college coaches go to the pros, have varying degrees of success, sometimes not all that much, and come back and can win championships. I'm sorry, John Calipari would be one. Rick Pitino would be an example of another. So Billy Donovan, still a young man, Billy Donovan can go. If it didn't work out at Oklahoma City, I don't want to bet against Billy Donovan. He's a pretty darn good coach. He can come back and get another job and just go right along his merry way. But if you're Oklahoma City, Tony, I think you and I agree on this. While you've got Westbrook and Durant, Stockton and Malone, you have to win while you have those guys because you may not have them forever.
Yeah. See, I don't think there's a big risk for Oklahoma City in this regard. I think that whatever success that Brad Stevens has had in Boston right away indicates that people are not as reluctant to take college guys anymore. Donovan makes sense because he's a two-time national champion. They obviously hated Scott Brooks. They probably feel that anybody would be better than Scott Brooks. Where I disagree with you is not the long view for Billy Donovan, because he would be able to go back to college. But in the short-term view, his risk is this. He may only have Durant for 1 year. He may not have him at all if that foot is a chronic injury.
Right.
He may only have Westbrook for 2 years. And he's going to work for a guy who got rid of James Harden, which looks like a horrendous move. So to me, if there is a risk, I think it's Donovan. Do.
Okay, in the short term, Tony, you're talking about, for a coach, everything is short term, like tonight. Like, can we win the game? I agree with you there. Donovan's going to want to go. What did he play with the Knicks? Like one season, maybe two seasons in the NBA? He had a taste of it. He knows a little bit about what it's about. But I still think, man, if you're Oklahoma City, Tone, you have to cash in while you have these guys. And I don't know if this will do it. I am sad to report that on the eve of the NFL draft, the god-awful Cleveland Browns have once again inserted themselves into the news. ESPN in Cleveland is reporting the Browns are putting together a package of picks, starting with the numbers 12 and 19 overall, to try and pry loose the number 2 picks from Tennessee to take Marcus Mariota. Tony, for a franchise that simply never, ever, ever gets anything right, as recently as last year with Johnny Manziel, why in the world would this be any different?
I don't know what else they can do, Mike. They don't have a quarterback that they like. Brian Hoyer left. Johnny Manziel just got out of rehab. There's no way to know, none whatsoever, if he can be a quarterback. They got Josh McCown, and they announced that he was a bridge quarterback. Bridge to what? A bridge to Sarah Palin's house? What are we talking about here? I mean, so if you can get Mariota, if you like Mariota and you can get Mariota, you do that. By the way, I want to get the name right on the hire. I think it's Kevin O'Connell. The Browns hired him as quarterback coach. The last thing he did was prep Mariota for his pro day performance, so they must like Mariota. Why wouldn't they do it, Mike?
Okay, so we can establish they like Mariota and they could do it. My question is, why the hell do we think it'll work? Nothing they do works. If they draft Mariota, my immediate presumption becomes Mariota can't play. or they don't have anybody who can get it out of Mariota. I don't care. Look, Tony, we know that unlike professional basketball and professional football, system, coaching, all of these things have to be in place to bring it out of you, or you can be a bust even though you appear to have star talent. My presumption, the moment you put that new stupid Cleveland uniform on with the Browns is, he can't play. Well, why is it going to work?
The part that I don't understand is the Tennessee part. You hear every day that they're in love with Zach Mettenberger. I mean, I don't know if that's true. But if Mariota is good, you take Mariota if you're Tennessee because you don't really have somebody.
But these are big ifs. Right now. So, these are the uncertainties of the draft. Big ifs. We don't even know if the number one pick's going to be any good.
Don't get it. After 2 straight days of postponing their games, the Orioles played the White Sox today at Camden Yards. The game was played without fans. For safety reasons, the public was not allowed in, though it seemed like dozens of fans gathered near a fence and peered through to see the game and cheer for the O's, who roughed up Jeff Samardzija early and won 8-2. Wilbon, how did it strike you when you watched this?
I don't know, Tony. You know, it seems like, some sort of Little League game where nobody's interested but the parents and you can't see them. I thought about a Little League stadium that I played in Chicago called Fillins, where, some team from 20 miles away would come and you play and the stands are like empty usually. And that's what it looked like. It looked bizarre, but again, I don't want to be critical of it. I understand why the stands were empty. I don't want to make the case it was an overreaction given what's going on in Baltimore. It just looked weird.
I will say this, and I don't want it to be taken the wrong way that I don't want any fans at all. You know the time of game here? The time of game, 2:03, with 10 runs and 15 hits and pitching changes, 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Fans now add an hour to the game?
What's the variable? The variable is there were no fans. But if baseball was to shorten the game, throw everybody out. That's what you got to do.
So basically you're saying players preen for the fans, for the 30 to 40,000 fans. They preen for them so much between pitches and on their way out. You make them sound like little leaguers, like they're looking to see their parents and they're flexing to see their
Maybe the TV broadcasters have something to do with it. Just get rid of everybody is my feeling. I thought it was weird, and I remember about a month ago, and I'm attracted to things like this, because about a month ago there was a soccer tournament called the Algarve Cup, and I remember calling up the brilliant producers of our show saying, put this on TV. There is literally nobody in the stands.
Me too.
Nobody in the stands. So it was weird and fascinating.
This has happened a few times in soccer, right? Because of hooliganism.
But you know what?
In soccer multiple times.
But what I didn't understand, Mike, was for safety purposes, the fans aren't allowed in, and yet they're allowed to assemble clearly
at the gate
on the street. So I didn't get it. I didn't. Let's take a break. But coming up, to the NHL have suspended the Red Wings' best defenseman for tonight's Game 7.
And what's the word from Manny Pacquiao? Telling his fans, relax, I'm going to win.
For any transcribers out there, I was kidding about not having fans. That's a joke.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
It is time to wrap up Wilbon in a cocoon of word horror. What's first?
It's blank that the Hawks beat the Nets tonight.
It's nearly critical. It's not critical because it's Game 5, okay? Even if they lose, they're only going to be down 3-2. But it's nearly critical because of a statistic that we had the other day that when a series is tied 2-2, the winner of Game 5 wins that series 82% of the time. And at this point, then, Atlanta would have lost 3 games in a row. That's tremendous jeopardy in that. They would have no confidence. They got a couple of guys playing with injuries now, Millsap and Al Horford. I do think they have to win this game, but mathematically they don't.
Tony, they have to win the game. It makes it imperative. Come on. They've been outplayed, like you mentioned, most of the series now. You got this game at home. And here's the other thing that's critical to me. You got nothing to fall back on in your recent history. I mean,
Right.
it's not like, you have had such enormous playoff success that you can just know you're going to go
That's
on
right.
the road,
You're
even
right.
though it's a nothing team like the Nets, and win a Game 6.
That's right.
No, they're going to be facing elimination if they lose this
Yeah.
one. It's imperative.
Yeah. Next.
The Red Wings are blank without Nicholas Kronwall in Game 7 tonight.
They're wounded. This is their number one player in minutes played. He's the point man on a very good power play that has 5 playoff goals already. So, I mean, going on the road for Game 7, you take a guy like that off the ice, you're wounded. But the larger issue here, Mike, is the courage it took for the NHL to understand that their refs blew it in this, that he launched himself the other night, that he committed something that did, in fact, deserve suspension in the playoffs.
That's right. And, Tony, that's why they are rightfully punished that he is out. I agree with all the things you said, all the ways that he is important to that lineup. But when you see him take that run at another player and literally knock the strapped-on helmet off of his head, I know these are collisions that the NFL and NHL used to endorse and celebrate and set
Not
to
anymore.
music with their own video tribute.
Not anymore.
No, not
No,
anymore.
not
Can't have it
anymore.
rightfully punished.
Yeah. Next.
Coming back to beat the Braves last night was a blank moment for the Nationals.
It was an opportune moment. I watched that game. That game was over. It was 9-1 in the second. It was 10-2 in the fourth. You're supposed to pack it in at that point, particularly on the road. And the Nats didn't. They got 3 home runs from, I think, the 6th inning on. The last one by Dan Uggla, a guy the Braves hated so much that they continue to pay him $13 million this year while he plays for the Nats. The thing is, if they don't make something out of this, if they don't go on a streak from here, if they blow it, they've blown the opportunity.
Yeah, here we go. The 27 Yanks. It's going to be all good, right? I mean, ESPN, CBS, Fox, Major League Baseball,
Jonathan
everybody.
Warner.
Kirkton. Yeah, there's
Jonathan
27
Warner.
Yanks. This is fool's gold, okay? The Nationals are dead last in fielding. Dead last in not the league, in baseball. They are 7th out of 15 in National League. In ERA,
Yeah.
Tony, pitching and defense. If you don't have that, there's no need to pronounce you the 27 Yanks yet.
Yeah, not yet. They're the 26 Yanks now. Next.
Okay.
Last one, Manny Pacquiao is blank to say, relax, I'm going to win.
He's reassuring. He's trying to say to his fans, don't worry, I'm approaching this fight with as much confidence as I've approached any other fight. My sense of this is, you may know differently, that about 80 to 85% of the people in the country would love to see Pacquiao win. And about 95% of those 80 to 85% are terrified that he's going to get tagged all night because Mayweather is a great fighter. So maybe this is reassuring.
Tony, I think he's obliged to say that. This is what fighters do. This is what Peter McNeely, wasn't that the guy's name who was going to wrap somebody in a cocoon of horror?
you in a cocoon of word horror.
I mean, this is what he said, too, before he went out and got his head knocked off. So this is what fighters do. They go out, whether it's the weigh-in, these various press conferences or pep rallies, and God knows all of the above exists for this fight in the pre-hype. But, Tony, while he may be obliged, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And, by the way,
Teddy Atlas picked him.
a lot of people are picking Pacquiao, Tone, but I think I see a lot more people rooting for Floyd Mayweather than you do.
You may. You're closer to it because you're in Los Angeles. That's it. You saw it. Don't mess with the Kornheiser. Let's take one last break, but still to come. Did the UFC do the right thing by stripping your boy John Jones of his title?
Ugh. And should the Yankees keep hoping Masahiro Tanaka gets better? Or just go ahead, shut him down, and let him have that Tommy John surgery now?
So you don't think the Nats are going to win? Is that what I'm taking from this?
Tony, they might. I'm just tired of the proclamations for 3 straight years.
Are you picking them?
No.
Oh, like Justice and Kirkton?
No. And you?
And Jonathan Warner?
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Happy time, people. Happy 27th birthday, Jonathan Taves. And happy 32nd birthday, Jay Cutler. My head is exploding as we pay tribute to these great Chicago athletes and all the championships they have won for the Windy City. Wilbon, I yield the floor to you to discuss these 2 Chicago heroes.
Well, one, Taves has won 13 NHL playoff series, or been primarily involved in the winning of those series, and 2 championships. Cutler, 1 playoff game, so maybe not so much.
Happy anniversary, Adam Silver. On this day last year, you banned Donald Sterling for life and fined him $2.5 million. This was the greatest example of something fortuitous dropping in your lap in the history of sports commissioning. Every move Silver made was right, and the subsequent sale to Steve Ballmer yielded a preposterous $2 billion.
Tony, I was out here a year ago when all that episode was going on, and it's amazing. Even though the team is now struggling in this fight with San Antonio, at least that's about basketball and none of the other huge issues we were dealing with a year ago.
Melancholy happy trails to Calvin Pete, the former Players champion and 12-time tour winner, died this morning at age 71. As Pete and Lee Elder followed in the footsteps of Charlie Sifford, Tiger Woods has followed in theirs. Indeed, Pete's 12 tour wins were the most by a black golfer until Woods came along and dominated the sport like nobody else.
Tony, an amazing life and career that Calvin Pete lived. The thing I think I found the most amazing is that he was in his mid-20s before he even learned to play golf. An amazing thing.
It is. It really is. No errors today. We run out of the show, so we go to the big finish. Tiger Woods himself announced today he will play in 5 tournaments this summer. Your thoughts?
Well, Jordan Spieth's going to play in 5 before the U.S. Open. I mean, Tiger's not going to pick it up at all. He's going to keep his old schedule. Masahiro Tanaka out at least a month with forearm, wrist issues. Should he just have the Tommy John surgery already?
It's 2 years in a row with arm problems. If Tommy John can solve that, you got to have it now. The UFC stripped the title away from light heavyweight John Jones. Was that deserved?
Tony, if the details of what we've heard reported are true, yes, it is. Russell Wilson indeed dating singer Sierra. Is that going to last?
This isn't the Hollywood Reporter, but I can tell you that last night at the state dinner at the White House, they were there. They were a couple last night at that dinner for the Japanese Prime Minister. Last one, Blazers and Grizzlies. Game 5 tonight. Will Memphis close it out?
I think so, Tony, but still, when you're without Mike Conley, there's a little hope, little light there for Portland.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Check out the PTI podcast on iTunes. Just do it.
Shout out to Penn Golf. They won the Ivies.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.